So recently, I came back from a holiday I had in Perth. It was a pretty good time overall. The lack of sleep and some disorganization was a bit annoying, but that's part of a holiday, I guess. I made a separate video on the holiday highlights itself, but after coming back, there's a few things I've learned. Some others may already know of these overall life perspectives, but they became super clear to me after this holiday. Now, some backstory. I have been going pretty hard on the grind, working 2 jobs 7 days a week, progressing in my specific career path, dealing with being shuffled around at job 2, postgraduate study, self learning on stocks, building a brand slash YouTube channel, going to the gym frequently, setting up my real estate, and some other stuff. I mention this since it's important context to the things I've learned whilst being on holiday. The reason I learned these whilst being on holiday was because I interacted with several different people on this holiday, and learning about their lives and what they're up to made me realize a few things. And these lessons are hard to learn when you see the same people all the time, and the only real new interaction you have with people come from strangers on the internet. So let's go over the 5 lessons I learned from my recent holiday. Lesson 1. Everyone has their own journey in the game of life. Duh. But this became especially obvious to me on my holiday. The reason my holiday opened my eyes to this is many people I know from my second job at the supermarket follow a similar path to this. Work while studying, find a partner, get your own place together, maybe marriage slash kids, and then there's not really much else from that point on. More so just the small things in life they tend to enjoy. My uni friends, well, something similar. Study hard, get some corporate job, maybe get married to your partner, move in together, done. Obviously, I know some people who don't follow this path, such as no study, they don't have their own place, no partner, but the variety in lives whilst being on my holiday was insane. Everyone was so different from each other. One person is a single male in his 30s and he just works in his family business most of the time. Someone else works casually at some store and takes care of her kids with the help of her mother. Another person is currently unemployed while they wait to hear back from a study abroad program that they want to go to in Europe. Another works in IT doing lots of overtime, hoping to buy a house with his cousin soon. Another one works a lot and likes driving his fancy car and living by himself. Another person is working part-time whilst doing a degree unrelated to their field of study. Another one works in the big city with their own apartment. Another person just started uni again in their late 20s after quitting their corporate gig. I could go on. But do you see how no two lives are the same? We're all on our own different paths, and from what I saw, no one person was happier than another. Differing income levels, different careers, different hobbies, different paths in life, and they were all content and chillin'. I suppose this is obvious to many, but when you're me, you see the same people each day, you never look at it from this perspective, and any interaction with new people are via the internet, in which you only see small snippets. You often get stuck in the whole comparing yourself to others trope. So this holiday helped me realize that each path in life is special and there's no one concrete path to greatness. In fact, our different paths is often what can make us unique as a person. Lesson 2, not everyone is killing it in life. Some people are just enjoying themselves. So I sort of alluded to this in the last segment, but when a lot of your friends consist of university friends who all picked useful degrees, I didn't screw up their career early on like I did. And any forums you tend to check online involve people high up in their career or those with multiple investment properties. It's easy to get misled into thinking everyone is killing it. The reason this used to be disheartening for me is because I worked harder than a lot of people I know, but it almost seems like we are in the same spot. Example, I worked 7 days a week on average since 2021. Studied an advanced education, bought real estate slash land and some other stuff. But then you take a snapshot at some point in life and it's like, wow, I worked this hard and ended up in the same point. So it's like, well, wow, what was the point? Pessimistic thought, and it also doesn't make sense when you spend some time dissecting it. We don't all have the same thing. There's a difference between their career and mine. There's a difference in the location of our houses. They have partners, which makes it easier to buy, but it also comes with the risk of a breakup later down the track, and then you have to split that asset, or that asset goes to the other partner instead of you. Also, there's a difference in our lives since I have the gym slash aesthetic rig, the YouTube channel, and stock trading acumen, but that isn't what people usually talk about when they mention someone in casual conversation. Example, oh, Jimmy is engaged, works in engineering, and just bought an apartment. That's the stuff you hear before, oh, Jimmy has a YouTube channel he's working on, oh, he's trying the whole stock trading thing, oh, he goes to the gym, etc. Obviously, I'm not the only person on the planet who I expect to be doing well in life, but when you bust your ass for years and years and end up with what appears to be the same result as others, that is what gets disheartening. But as I learned on this holiday, it's not the case. Many people aren't killing it, and those that appear to be aren't in quite the position I thought they were once you spend some time analyzing their situation. For a while, I just assumed that many people were killing it due to the semi-echo chamber I'm in with my uni friends and the people I interact with online. But once you go outside and touch grass, you interact with people who aren't in your group, and you get to know more about other people, the more you realize that I'm somewhat surrounded/interact with the exception, not the norm. And even then, basically every friend I went to uni with has a partner, so it's much easier to buy some sort of apartment/unit/land when your household income is more than 150 grand combined, because there's two of you. Both of you can have a 75k income, which is very doable at this age, pretty easy. As opposed to me, there's only one of me. And I'm only really comparing good career and housing, that's it. I'm not taking into account actual incomes individually, gym, side hustles, quality of life, etc. Realistically, many of them are living pretty standard run-of-the-mill lives. You just hear about how many people are struggling to find work/can't buy their own place, and then you wonder how a lot of people in your circle did it. Well, they did it because they have a partner and have a decent/good job, but that does not encapsulate most people. And the people on the internet are only telling you their highlight reels. They may say they earn 150k from a job, but when you dissect it, their job sucks, they work 70+ hour weeks, and suddenly that $150,000 income isn't as enticing. My point is, not everyone is killing it. I also noticed that a lot of people I interacted with seem to be more carefree. It's like they don't have their shit together/don't have a concrete plan, but hey, things will work out. They'll figure it out. In my region, or at least in some of the interactions I've had, especially since I consume a lot of this economic woe-related content online, the theme is usually, oh shit, we're fucked, it's a catastrophe. The chats I had on my holiday were, yeah, it's rough, what can you do? It's like a lot of people seem to be more chill about it. They're like, we'll figure it out later. I found that to be an interesting perspective since I found people to be less carefree in my personal life, but that could also be due to keeping up with the economy/labor market, which is not so hot so. Naturally, the doomier, gloomier content is what you end up seeing a lot of. I know some dude who will sometimes leave home and rent and then come back since rent's too expensive, then rent their own place for a bit, then come back home, just drifting around. No worries, mate, it's chill. People also randomly go on holidays despite not having their mortgage 100% sorted. I have a friend who is keen to go to Japan with me, but I told him no holidays until I have my mortgage secured and I've paid a lot of it down. I ultimately think I'm making the better decision, securing the bag first, but maybe I'm wrong. Maybe the more carefree, chilled out people have it right. Also, a lot of people watch streaming services in their downtime. For me, my downtime is usually spent on more productive stuff, but at one point during my holiday, I was just sitting in my relative's lounge on Paramount Plus. I didn't grab my laptop to do work since I was super tired, and there wasn't much I wanted to do on my phone either. Example, I couldn't be asked watching politics stuff on X, already saw dark humor memes from Instagram, CBF replying to my friends on Facebook or Snapchat. I don't have TikTok, I don't care about looking at career or stock stuff on Reddit, so I just watched Jimmy Neutron for like an hour and a half before dinner. And damn, that was nice. I hadn't sat down and watched TV in years. Usually I have YouTube on the screen whilst doing some work at the same time. So I understand why people spend their downtime watching TV instead of working on something else. Goes back to the point of this section, not everyone is killing it. Some are just enjoying themselves. Not everyone gets off their 9 to 5 and then works on their 5 to 9. Many just use their downtime to actually relax. Not saying I'd suggest to not have a side hustle, especially in this economy, but I understand those people who are more chilled out now. So point is, once I touched grass and left the state where I'm not surrounded by my university friends, and when I didn't spend so much time on the internet, I realized that not everyone has a great career and their own house. since that's most of my uni and high school friends. I just tend to be surrounded by a higher concentration of people doing well in life. I had obviously seen this online and heard about so and so I went to high school with who's struggling, but there's a difference between that and actually talking to those people who don't have it all, which is something I was exposed to and learned on this holiday. And even then, my friends from high school/uni, dissecting their circumstances, they're really not as awe-inspiring/impressive on face value. Example, most friends who have houses bought with a partner. So yes, I worked weekends whilst they had weekends off and they could still afford a house, but that's because they had the income from their partner to help out. Yes, at the end of the day we both have houses, but one of us only has one name on the bank document, the other person has two. My friend makes a good amount more than I do, but she works in Melbourne 4 days a week in the office. She's awake before I am, and she gets off the train as I'm finishing my gym session. I have more time in my day than she does. Naturally, that extra time spent commuting and working in the big city comes with a higher salary. So stuff like that needs to be taken into account before thinking you have it worse just because your house isn't as big, or you have no house, or your friend makes more than you do. So this holiday made me realize there are many others out there just chilling, taking it easy in life, enjoying themselves, not stressing over the big salaries or fancy houses. Lesson 3. Your own path is unique, and that's what makes life great. Another thing I alluded to earlier, we all have our own paths, but like I said, that doesn't make yours better or worse. It makes you unique. Example, the person who's waiting to enroll in a study abroad program in Europe, that's all she wants. If you offered that to me, I'd turn it down. I'd much prefer my path. The same way many people hate office jobs or working 7 days a week. Sounds like torture to many people. I somewhat enjoy it. I'm obviously only doing it because I need to, but I still personally much prefer what I'm doing compared to others. It makes me interesting and keeps me occupied, since a lot of bad, dark, lonely thoughts can occupy your mind when you don't have much to do. So, with all my differing plates to spin, it keeps the darker, lonely thoughts away. And plus, doing the extra stuff that most others don't do makes you unique and special, and we all enjoy our own things anyway. Basketball is my favorite sport. Many other people's favorite sport is football, or soccer, depending on where you're from. So interacting with a lot of these people with very different lives made me realize each path is different, and that's what makes us special. I suppose once again you could have figured this out without a holiday, but I wouldn't have without the holiday, since I would have never interacted with all these different people. There's another example I have for this point. Back in 2022, someone I knew was earning more than I was at their business type job despite only just starting, since this was a new endeavor for them. Meanwhile, at this point, I was 1.5 years into my job and I was earning about 7K a year less than they were, and they were allowed to work from home twice a week, whereas I had 0 days work from home. At this point, they're in a position that I want to be in. Fast forward to this holiday, I interact with this same person. I didn't see them on this holiday, but we did interact, and turns out they quit their job a year or so ago and are studying something completely new at university. So, currently, my life path is the standard work your way up. This person was ahead of me at one point, but now they're behind me in the sense of the traditional work your way up path. Or are they? Are they behind me, or are they just on a different path? Was I ever behind this person, or was I simply on a different path? There were so many different paths for many different people. No one is behind. You're right on time based on your own schedule. Don't compare your time zone to someone else's. It's nighttime in Australia when the New York Stock Exchange opens. So whose time zone is correct? It doesn't matter. You're in your own time zone, so just adjust your life to your own personal time zone. Your own personal circumstances are also what makes life unique and interesting. I enjoy catching up with my friends who tell me about their jobs, partners or lack of partners, hobbies, etc. We all have something different to contribute to the conversation. I have a friend who loves to go home after work and play FIFA and 2K. That's what he finds relaxing. I enjoy coming home from work and making more YouTube videos, sussing stock charts, going to the gym, etc. He enjoys his chill security job and coming home to level up his careers on FIFA and 2K. I enjoy my office job and coming home to level up my brand stat. Personally, I enjoy being a CPA, gym rat, investor, YouTuber, and future landlord. You could literally earn more money by simply just being a doctor, but I prefer being a nice mix of different traits. I've seen some mild trend on Instagram of people showing all of their unique talents. Example, someone will study, I don't know, mechanical engineering whilst being able to play two instruments, whilst working in a lab, whilst being a semi pro tennis player. Shit like that. See how this person is quite different from me? We're all different in our own way. It doesn't make any of us better than the other, it just makes us different. And that's what's great about life. The reason I learned this whilst being on holiday is because of the numerous interactions I had with other people. I would have never had this without actually leaving my regular routine and interacting with many different people. Lesson 4, your location makes a huge difference in the path you take in life and how your life pans out. You are a product of your environment. If you grow up in a third world country, chances are you're going to have a lower net worth and much less of an economic opportunity compared to a first world country. Your environment matters. The holiday I went on really put this into perspective from a career/salary point of view. So, mining is a big thing in West Australia, and my cousin was telling me there are literally certain groups of people that will exclude you if you don't work for one of the big mining companies, or if your partner doesn't. And you can only really get into these positions by knowing someone already in that industry. So, these are the people who are making like 180,000 plus a year. But they only got these jobs because 1, they live near the mining areas, and 2, their buddies got them a job in those fields. So when you see those posts online saying, oh, I make this much money, it's likely these types of people, especially since the gloating online matches the personality types based on what my cousin told me. Like, yeah, I've made videos on my income before, but it's not like I talk about it every video, nor do I post on random forums all the time about it. Yeah, I do have my net worth videos, but 1, they're not my sole identity, and I don't think I'm the bee's knees because of it. Example, I don't exclude people from my friend group if their net worth isn't a certain amount. I actually know the net worth of 0 of my friends. I have no clue. I could kind of get a rough idea on them, but I have no clue what the actual number is. And 2, it's a part of the game of life. It's not like the main thing I talk about. I have mentioned in a prior video about how I'm a good catch, and I did mention the money/income/net worth, but it was a part of my overall package, not my sole purpose/selling point, if that makes sense. I'll talk more on this in a future video, and that video will be along the lines of, are my standards too high, or something. But for now, there are many people who only have a good life due to their current environment. There are nowhere near as many relevant mining opportunities here in Victoria. Yeah, you can fly over to West Australia/Queensland/wherever for the mines, but you're way more likely to get a job in that field living near that area. 3 separate cousins from 3 separate families in that area have all had mining jobs before, since it's just way easier to get over there. I'll mention the mine jobs more in my next point, but I also had another example of this in my first gym session back from the holiday. So one of my close mates from the gym here in Victoria was supposed to have started his mining job recently. The original plan/idea was for him to fly in and fly out, fly to the mines, then fly back home. But as it turns out, the company wanted him to move to the area. So what usually happens with mine jobs, even if you work in West Australia, is you fly out to the mine site, live on camp during your shift, then fly back home when your shift is over. A lot of people like it since you can cram all your work in at once, and then you have a huge break. Instead of working 40 hours over 5 days, you work 84 plus hours in 7 days, then you have a week off. Or maybe they have a 2-on, 2-off roster, where you do 2 weeks of 84 hours, and then you have 2 weeks off. So yeah, once your shift is over, you fly back home. But this company wanted my friend to move there for some reason. They didn't want him to move to the mine itself, but just closer, aka move to West Australia. So since he wasn't willing to do that, uproot his entire life for like 80k entry salary, let alone having to pay rent to move there, which is expensive in certain pockets of West Australia. Yeah, the salary goes way up later, but is that extra money worth uprooting your whole life? For many people, no it's not. Once again, your environment matters. If my gym friend lived in West Australia, then no worries. He's just got his foot in the door at a mining job. It's a similar situation for big corporate jobs. If you live in Melbourne or Sydney already, then it's easy to get a big corporate job since you're already in the area. You've probably already rubbed elbows with someone who can get you jobs in those areas. You could still live at home while starting out in your career versus moving and paying rent, or commuting multiple hours each day. Once again, your environment makes a huge difference. I will concede I have it much easier than many others. I am in a first world country after all, but I don't live anywhere near the mines, I don't live anywhere near the big city, so the big salaries are simply not available to me, hence why I work 2 jobs 7 days a week. If I wanted the bigger bucks, that's simply what I'd have to do. But to wrap up this point, your environment makes an enormous difference on the trajectory of your life. There are opportunities in other areas that are simply not available to me. And we also see that on a global scale with third world versus first world countries. Lesson 5. People online are not all they seem in person. It's easy to exaggerate accomplishments. So you can easily inflate someone's accomplishments or make them seem way better than they are just by talking about them in a certain way. I found this out on the holiday by meeting a heap of various people and hearing about them from friends/family, and then chatting with them in person. For example, someone I know of is making $120,000 a year working in the big city and has her own apartment. Impressive, but upon chatting to them, yes, they earn good coin, but it's because they're uniquely skilled at their particular small accounting firm, and their firm has a super niche service that serves some specific international clients. It's still impressive, of course, and a good salary, but that's such a hyper-specific scenario. I don't know any accounting firms around my region that have that kind of salary available to even senior staff, let alone providing a specialized service like that. Most firms in my region only really serve locals. As for the apartment, it was one of the more cheap ones, if that makes sense. It's still good, but there's a difference between a smaller apartment on one of the bottom floors versus the top of the skyscraper penthouse. So I don't want to get anyone confused here. That is still very impressive still, but the reality of hearing someone making $120K in the city with their own apartment isn't as fancy once you dissect it. Another example, one person I was talking to had a fly-in, fly-out mining gig for a while, and he said he was on 80K, 85K, pretty good for entry level, but not for the work he was doing. So when you work in the mines, you do split shifts with day and night, share the workload. You don't get paid extra for working the nights, which I thought you did. But nope, your salary encapsulates the night shifts. So someone I was chatting to whilst on this holiday was telling me, during the night shifts, they would have trouble staying awake. You were allowed to have the radio played softly, I think. Certainly no podcasts, YouTube, etc. You probably don't have reception being that far underground anyway, and especially being that secluded from society. Internet in Australia is shit. And it was such mind-numbing work. They'd drive this vehicle super slowly, unload something, drive super slowly back somewhere else. You'd have trouble staying awake whilst being in charge of such heavy equipment. Dangerous stuff. And if that wasn't bad enough, the shift is 12 hours, and once you're done, it's not as simple as leave the vehicle and bam, you're right at your room. This person was saying you have a 10 to 15 minute, maybe longer handover, and then you got to get back to camp. Sometimes you're far away from camp, and you have to drive slowly back, no hooning on the mine site. And even worse, you can get stuck behind a giant mining vehicle, and no overtaking that either. So you're stuck behind a giant vehicle doing 5 kilometers per hour for 20 plus minutes. Then you eventually get back to your campsite. So all in all, it's more like a 13 plus hour shift, when you're super tired too. Super boring, humid weather, so far from home, and for a while, you're not even getting paid that much. Yeah, obviously 80 to 85K is juicy money for an entry-level role, but if you ask me, I'd rather not be doing this. You hear all about how entry-level roles in the mines pay really well. You just need a few tickets, way cheaper and easier to get compared to university degrees or trade apprenticeships, but it's really rough work. See how it's easy to exaggerate how good something appears to be? Oh wow, that's a lot of money for an entry-level role that doesn't require uni or doing a 4-year trade apprenticeship. But do you want to work 12-hour, boring, mind-numbing shifts overnight that requires you to fly to the middle of nowhere? Probably not. Plus, fuck flying so often. I hate flying. And in the Perth airport, there were so many people wearing their mine site uniform. So all these people were making good coin, but damn, personally, I don't even know if it's worth it. All that flying for the sake of work, maybe you enjoy flying, I don't. I did want to get into the mines a while ago, but that desire died off soon after, And after this holiday in Perth, chatting with people who've worked in the mines, seeing all those people waiting around in the airport, flying on a few planes recently, and even chatting with my friend from the gym who also got screwed over by the mining company, I'm like, FIFO is a hard no from me. Also, obviously, since my career has a good path now and I've done my CPA studies, no chance I will pivot from my career now. Additionally, a lot of those people who are making 180,000 plus per year are doing crazy shifts like 2 on, 1 off, or 3 on, 1 off rosters. So you're working 84-hour weeks, 2 or 3 times in a row, and then you get a week off. Yes, that's great money, but damn, too much work for me. I work a lot myself, but both of my jobs are relatively easy compared to other jobs, and stuff like gym, study, YouTube, etc. that could be considered work are somewhat enjoyable for me. Personally, I'd rather my routine than a FIFO routine. So this holiday helped unveil the inner workings of some people in the big bucks. On the internet, you'll hear someone say, "Oh, I make 160k in the mines." Wow, impressive. That's a good salary. Well, I talked to one of those people who actually worked in the mines and they hated it. In fact, I hear a lot of people who are actually in the mines want to leave. They just don't have enough money yet. Fair enough, but with that said, that's most people who work. Most people don't want to work. And also this combines with the point I mentioned earlier, how my cousin said there were groups of snobby people who exclude you if you don't work for the big mining company. These are the personality types on forums talking about the income they earn, since it's their whole personality. Besides my YouTube videos, never once in any forum have I ever commented about the income I make, since I don't consider it my whole identity. Yes, I browse them, but they're in my downtime, such as waiting for a report to run at work, while I'm on the toilet, whilst waiting for a YouTube video to render, etc. So the point is, the big incomes are not as common as you'd think, since the people who tend to comment their high incomes on the forums are those types my cousin mentioned. Their whole personality is that they work at a big company. They have nothing else to their identity other than their high salary, which they only got due to their location/environment. And even so, the work is grueling, long shifts, overnight shifts, hot desert. They make good money for a reason. I love walking into an air-conditioned office on a hot day. So once you get to know these people more, or you learn more about their work, you realize that, yeah, the money is good, but that kind of work isn't for me. I'd rather earn less. You see it online in some cases too. Someone who used to earn the big bucks hated their life working 80-plus hour weeks. Now they've taken a huge pay cut for a much more chilled out role. That's the path I've taken. I could earn way more elsewhere, but my role is super chill. And it's enough for me to afford a house combined with my second job. That's enough. Yeah, I'll still gun for pay raises, but how much money becomes enough? Is the goal to constantly job hop perpetually to make the most income ever? There's always someone with a higher income than you. So this holiday taught me 5 valuable life lessons. 1, everyone has their own journey in the game of life. There were plenty of people I met who all had extremely varying life circumstances and life paths. 2, not everyone is killing it in life, but they're still enjoying themselves. It's easy to get caught up in the doom and gloom of the cost of living crisis, labor market crisis, etc. But there were a lot of people on this holiday that were not even remotely worried about the labor or economic crisis. They were just enjoying themselves. 3, your own path is unique and that's what makes life great. Similar to point 1, but this is more so to show that it's okay to have a different path. Point 1 can be interpreted as, well, yeah, they're on a different path, but that's a worth path to be on. Point 3 negates that idea. No path is better than the other. The guy who's living off a dividend portfolio and a small online income traveling third world countries has a terrible net worth compared to a FIFO miner in West Australia, but the miner is forced to be stuck in a desert for more than half of the year. The traveler has no such shackles. If you work under a family business, potentially you make way more than I do, but I'm forging my own path. How many CPA stock trading landlord YouTuber gym rats do you know personally? 4, your location makes a huge difference in the path you take in life and how your life pans out. This is an obvious example once you consider third world versus first world countries, but even in the same country, there's a huge difference. There are way more corporate opportunities in big cities, which is not where I live, and there are way more big mining opportunities in other states in Australia, which is also not where I live. But that's okay. My path is that of a small country town boy. I'll play with the cards I was dealt, as that's what makes my particular character in the game of life unique and interesting. 5. People online are not what they seem in person. It's easy to exaggerate accomplishments. You never get the full story when you see someone's highlight reel. You see a $160,000 plus income on a Reddit forum. You don't see the 12 plus hour shifts they have to do overnight in the middle of the desert. No music, humid heat, whilst tired. You see $200,000 plus incomes in the big city. You don't see the 80 plus hour work weeks. You hear so and so has her own apartment in the city. You don't see it's on the lower floor and it's quite small. Let's use me for example. You see CPA, but you don't see the 2 failed attempts and 4 years of study alongside everything else I did. You also don't see all the struggles of uni beforehand either. You see 2,000 subs. You don't see the many videos that I made whilst the channel was unmonetized. You see intermediate/advanced gym physique, depending on your standards. You don't see the 2 to 3 years I spent barely making any progress beforehand. It's so easy to make someone sound more accomplished/impressive than they actually are. But once you dissect their circumstances a bit more, yeah, it's still impressive, but it doesn't seem so quite out of reach/it doesn't seem quite so unattainable. So those are 5 important life lessons I learned on my holiday. Maybe you already knew these life lessons, maybe you could learn them without a holiday, but it took a holiday for these lessons to be really drilled into my mind. I suppose it's no different from those end-of-year life lessons that YouTubers make. What I learned in 2021, here's what I learned in 2024, stuff like that. Most of those lessons seem obvious to me, but maybe that person needed that year to teach them those lessons, the same way I needed a holiday to teach me these 5 life lessons. Have you learned any life lessons whilst being on holiday? Let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching. That is all.